Is that noise in the background? Okay, it's gone. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Giribalada Gukti Gopi Janabalaba Giribalada Gukti Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachagade Yamuna Tera Vanachagade Jayarantu Madhova Kunjabikagute Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihagute Gopi Janabalava Hiribaro Hade Gopi Janabalaba Girivarudare Yasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Vanachagade Yamuna Tera Vanachagade Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihagure Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihagure Do Madhava Kunja Bihagure Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravitakacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrindikajai Namacharya Shidahoridas Thakur Gajai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Garadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrindikajai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam Kijai Matridam Kijai Jagadatasnami Kijai Yamunamai Kijai Shimani Lasi Dev Kijai Saveda Bhakta Vrinda Kijai Gaur Prayamalanda Hari Haribo. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Kijai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhugale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namni Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauranga Charni Namaste Srinivadi Paschati Saturday. So today we are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 59th chapter, text 43. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Graheshu Tasam Anapayi Atarka Krin Nitasta Asamyatisayeshu Avastita Reme Ramabir Nija Kama Sampluto Yate Toto Garhaka Amedikangsh Charan Graheshu Tazam Anupayat Graheshu Tasam Anupayatarka Krin Payaka Nirasta Samya Tishayeshu Avastata Vaishvavastata Reme Ramabir Nija Kama Sampluto Yatetaro Garhaka Meda Kamsharan Graheshu Tazam Anupayatarka Krin Yatarka Krin Nirasta Samyati Shayeshvavastata Reme Ramabir Nija Kama Sampluto Ayatetaro Garaka Medi Kamscharan Medi Kamscharan Graheshu Tasam Anupayatarka Krin Payatarka Krin Nirasta Samya Tishayeshu Vastata Reme Ramabir Nija Kama Sampluto Yatetaro Garhaka Medi Kamscharan Yatishayesh Reme Rama Bir Nijakama Sampluto Yatetura Garakamedi Kamsharan Teturogar Medi Kamsharan Run. Ladies? No ladies? By a dark grin. Rasta Samyati Shayeshvavastata Eme Rama Bir Nijakama Sampluto Yate the Rogaraka Medi Kamsharan. Okay. Graheshu in the residences. Tasam there. Anapai never leaving. Atarka inconceivable. Krit performing deeds. Nirasta which refuted. Samya equality. Atithshayeshu and superiority. Avastita remaining. Reme he enjoyed. Rumabi with the pleasing women. Nija his own. Kama in the pleasure. Sampluta absorbed. Yata as. Itara any other man. Garhaka may the Khan the duties of household life. Charan carrying out. So translation, the Lord, performer of the inconceivable, constantly remained in each of his queen's palaces, which were unequaled and unexcelled by any other residence. There, although fully satisfied within himself, he enjoyed with his pleasing wives, and like an ordinary husband, he carried out his household duties. So you can repeat, the Lord, performer of the inconceivable, constantly remained in each of his queen's palaces, which were unequaled, and unexcelled by any other residence. There, although fully satisfied within himself, he enjoyed with his pleasing wives, and like an ordinary husband, he carried out his household duties. So, purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The word atarka krit is significant here. Tarka means logic, and atarka means that which is beyond logic. The Lord can perform krit, that which is beyond mundane logic, and hence inconceivable. Still, the Lord's activities can be appreciated and understood to a significant extent by those who surrender unto him. This is the secret of bhakti, loving devotion to the Supreme Lord. Srila Siddhar Swami comments that the Lord was always at home, except for when he had to go out to do ordinary household duties. Like the Siddharma Assembly has its ordinary household duty. I mean, yeah, it was his job. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that since in the Vaikuntha planets, Lord Narayan enjoys with only one goddess of fortune, and in Dwarka, Krishna enjoys with thousands of queens, Dwarka must be considered superior to Vaikuntha. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also quotes the following passage from the Skanda Purana. Shudashaiva sahasrani gopyas tamra samagata Hangsaheva mata Krishna Paramatma Janardana Dushaita Shaktayo Devi Shudashaiva Prakirtita Chandrarupi mata Krishna Hala rupas tutasmata Sampurna mandalatasam Malini shodasi kala Shodasoiva kala yasu Gopi rupa farangane Ekaikashashta Sambindha Ashrena Pritak. At that place, 16,000 gopis were assembled with Krishna, who was considered the supreme, the super soul, the shelter of all living beings. These gopis, long purport, are his renowned 16 potencies, O goddess. Krishna is like the moon, the gopis are like its phases, and the full contingent of gopis is like the full sequence of the moon's 16 phases. Each of these 16 divisions of gopis, my dear Varangana, is subdivided into 1,000 parts. So 16 times 1,000. 16,000. Got it? And of course, there's 16,108. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur further quotes the Kartika Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, Kaishore Gopakanyas Ta Yavane Raja Kanyaka. Those who were the daughters of the cowards in their early youth, this is interesting, became royal princesses in their maturity. The Acharya adds, therefore, just as the Lord of Dwarka is a plenary expansion of the supremely complete Lord of Sri Vrindavan, so his principal queens are the full expansions of his supremely complete pleasure potencies, the gopis. So, before going on to read some of the Acharya's commentaries, I want to speak a little bit about this atarka stuff. So, Greshu tasamanu payatarka krin nirasta samyatisha yeshvavastata Reme Ramabir Nijakama Sampluto Yate Turokara Medikams Charan. So Omagana Timiranda Shah Gadanjana Shilakaya Chakshur Unmiditam Yena Tasmai Shigaravena Maha. So we've been talking about Tarka, or which Prabhupada generally translates as mundane or logic, like that. And so There is a very interesting verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 17,305, which really gives us an indication what's being talked about here. Because here, when we approach this verse, that was mentioned by Mother Urmila yesterday, that there's many things that are just like inconceivable, unbelievable, go against mundane logic, like, for example, how can one person be in two places at the same time? It's just not, in my mind, it doesn't compute. So, as they would say in the 1960s, I hate to use this expression, it blows your mind. The Krishna, and like I quote this verse often, Advaita Chuta Nadu Rananta Rupa Madhyam Puranam Purusam Navayopanam Chad Vedeshu Durlabam Durlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. That verse gives a little bit of a hint that Krishna is one, he's infallible, and he has unlimited forms, and each one of those forms can be doing different things or same things in different places or the same place, and he can have a disagreement between two of his forms which are non-different from him. Isn't it? I mean, it's pretty inconceivable. I mean, like Mother Urmila mentioned yesterday, yeah, sometimes you could have disagreements in your mind. Like, should I do this? That's called a conflict situation. There's approach, avoidance, approach. And it really throws you for a loop. Or if you happen to be someone like Ravan, which is probably more believable than being in different places at the same time, you have 10 heads, and you can have a GBC meeting. And you can vote on, proposals which become resolutions, which the devotees oppose. So, it's described about Ravana that one head was expert in this, another head was expert in that. And so, it's good to have experts in different areas whenever you're making a decision. So, but Krishna is unlimited places, unlimited at the same time or different times. Krishna can transcend time. He can go to the past. He can go to the future. He can, as people say, he can make an immovable object that he can move. It's not logical. So anyway, getting back to that verse, you can't understand them by studying the Vedas, nor can you understand the process of devotional service. You just get bewildered and have a reality check, sometimes devotees are subject to that, like disconnect from reality. So we have to be careful also. Here's another important point, that even though we believe in all this inconceivable stuff, and I'll describe why we believe in it, we still have to function in this conceivable, logical universe. We often find devotees who get too much into the inconceivable things as far as their practical daily dealings and think that they don't have to follow the rules and regulations, the law, or anything like that within this mundane universe. And that's a disconnect from reality, and that's a psychological disease. Anyway, so we have to function in both worlds. So, so Vedeshu Durlabam. You cannot understand it, or very difficult to understand by studying the Vedas, because, as described, Shutina Vivina, as the Mahabharata says. The Vedas are many, many branched, or as Krishna says in the Gita, Trigunya Vishaya Veda. He said the Vedas mainly deal with the three modes of material nature, and most of the Vedas, they're dealing with like the demigod worship, or different rituals, karma kanda, jnana kanda, and there's some that are just dealing with upasana kanda, and it's very difficult to understand. Anyway, Vedeshu Durlabham, but Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. So therefore, one can understand if one approaches a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord. Now, what does it mean to understand? Actually, there's more verses I'm going to read in a second, but what does it mean to understand? It doesn't mean that you understand how Krishna does things. You know, what's the mechanism? Just like I love to study how machines work. If you give me a machine, I mean, I used to do this when I was a kid. I would take the machine apart, even watches apart, until the spring just like sprung out, went across the room. And I enjoyed it, even today. You know, this is my enjoyment. So I look at Krishna, you know, how does Krishna, you know, what is the mechanism, or what is the, you know, what is the trick? Or you see a magician's trick, right? And, you know, he saws a lady in half. Not really. There'd be blood all over the place. And you think, what is it? Is it mirrors, or is there a trap door underneath that the lady's escaping to? You know, what is it? But there's no tricks. Krishna, it's just like, it's a chincha shakti. Krishna's Aptakami. He wants something to happen. It doesn't matter what the logic is, what the rules and regulations are. And even if you read the Bhagavatam, the yogis, they can actually circumvent the laws of material nature. I mean, even Hanuman circumvented the laws of material nature. How did he do that? You know, made himself big, made himself Anima City, Lagima City, Prapti City. You know, so, you know, even devotees or even yogis can do these things. So we cannot understand how Krishna does things. It's really, well, actually, logically, because he wants to. Why does Krishna do that? You know, why does Krishna do this? Why does Krishna do what? We can understand why, not the how, sorry. Why? Because Krishna's Rasa Raj, right? He's the king of those who enjoy rasas. This is what he's doing here with these wives. The reason he's doing these things, the reason he incarnates, the reason he creates the material world. Of course, we understand he creates the material world out of compassion for his living entities, because he wants to enjoy with them. And his enjoyment is seeing them enjoy too. So it's not a selfish enjoyment. Generally in this world we have this selfish enjoyment, just like the word kama is used here in relationship to Krishna. So kama means lust. And, you know, even if you read the Vedas, there's one Vedic literature called the Kama Sutra. How to enjoy lust. I mean, it's more than just how to enjoy lust in the Kama Sutra. I did read it before I joined the movement, unfortunately. So, but Krishna's Kama is all-encompassing. He wants his devotees to enjoy what? The exchange of ras. So Krishna is acting like an ordinary husband because he enjoys this. And as far as the wives that he enjoys, they're part of Krishna's Swarup Shakti. So in one sense, they're inseparable from Krishna. In another sense, they're different. You know, again, we have this Achincha. Achincha, Veda, Tattva. Achincha, Veda Tattva. That means the inconceivable nature of Krishna and his energies. So anyway, so in other words, you can say Krishna's enjoying with himself or enjoying with a reflection of himself. And we, of course, the living entities, are parts and parcels of Krishna, you know, chips off the old block. So in one sense, Krishna's everything. In another sense, everything's different from Krishna. So anyway, so we can understand Krishna's motivation is enjoying ras. And that's the enjoyment that we should be hankering for too, isn't it? To enjoy Ras, and part of that Ras, just like Krishna, is part of, Krishna's Ras is enjoying his devotee enjoying, so the devotee is enjoying Krishna enjoying. That's the secret for transcendental Ras. It's not just the symptoms, like, Rasa Samagri, the Bhava. Yeah, the Bhava's, I just want to feel shaking. I want to feel tears coming from my eyes. I mean, I could have you have tears coming from your eyes without Krishna consciousness, if you like. We could have you shake, too. Take you outside without a coat in the middle of the winter. So, but, it's reciprocal, just like Krishna, devotee is called Ashraya, Krishna is called Vishaya, and then they switch. So they're both in a relationship. Both are one sense, Krishna and the devotee are Ashraya, or Ashrayas, and they're both Vishayas. It's just such a wonderful, reciprocal, loving relationship, and that's what we're hankering for, and that's what Krishna enjoys. So in other words, that much you can understand about Krishna. Like that. Other things are inconceivable. I mean, even the material world's inconceivable, illogical. If you take quantum mechanics, it's illogical. Completely illogical. Like Einstein said something like, spooky action at a distance. Where one subatomic particle, or even it occurs at the macro scale too, can influence, or what's happening with one can influence another one that's on the other side of the universe instantaneously. What? Or, a dog can be both, a cat, sorry. Cat can be both alive and dead, or either, or both, whatever, anyway. It's just, because even Krishna's energies are inconceivable, right? Even the energies, the material energy is inconceivable. What is consciousness? It's inconceivable. I mean, we understand it comes from the soul, it's the quality of the soul, but it's inconceivable. How we were sitting here in this room is inconceivable. But, we do have desire. Anyway, that's the point. Desire. That we can understand. Krishna's desire. And Krishna's desire is always for our own good. So therefore, even if things happen, it's because of Krishna's desire. As we often talk about, that unless it's our fault, that Krishna arranges things, and we don't blame the person who is immediately responsible. It happens to be something miserable. For example, an example in that regard is, let's say you receive a subpoena, in the mail that you've done, anyway, you have to show up in court because there's a court case against you or something like that. So it's not that you go to the postman and start thinking the postman is your enemy because he's delivered the letter. You start shaking him and say, shoot him or something like that. So anyway, so that's the point that we can understand Krishna from that respect. Now there's a very interesting verse which I said I would read from the Adi Leela 17:305 that talks about this tarka, how things cannot be understood by argumentation. This is, let me read it. Ite tarka kari keha nakara samshaya krishnera achinta shakti a matahaya. One cannot understand the contradictions in Lord Chaitanya's character by putting forward mundane logic and arguments. Consequently, one should not maintain doubts. So that's another point that's really important, not only with Lord Chaitanya, that sometimes we may have doubts in the Krishna conscious philosophy statements, because it just doesn't make sense logically to us. Consequently, one should not maintain doubts in this connection. One should simply try to understand the inconceivable energy of Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot understand how such contradictions are possible. So, and that's what I want to talk about right now. But let's go back to the commentaries of the Acharyas. I mean, there's so much here in this verse that you could give a class that would go on for several days. So, let's read some of the commentaries. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I'm trying not to repeat what was said in the ISKCON commentary. Basically, it says, let me just skip over part of this. Their houses had no equal or superior, even Vaikuntha. What then to speak of enjoyment there? Being submerged in his natural love, he enjoyed with all those women, whereas in Vaikuntha, Narayan enjoys only with one woman. So that was stated before. And there he carried out household duties, arham, with the addition of sweetness. Skanda Purana explains that these women were the eternal Shaktis of the Lord. Shakti means potency. 16,000 gopis went to Dwarka, Krishna as Paramatma, Janardana, and they were his energies. Famous as 16, this is the same thing was stated in the purport. And the statement about the gopis becoming the wives, that's also stated in the purport. In other words, Krishna in Vrindavan was most perfect, and his Prakash form in Dwarka was perfect. The gopis in Vrindavan were the most perfect forms of the Ladini Shakti, and their Prakash forms in Dwarka were perfect. So they were expansions. And that's pointed out very nicely in the Lalita Madhava by Srila Rupa Goswami, where you find the Radharani appears as Satyabhama, and Chandravali appears as Rukmini, and their moods are similar, but they're expansions of the original personalities in Vrindavan. Of course, all the Shaktis of the Lord are expansions of the Adi Shakti, and that Adi Shakti is Srimati Radharani. So Radharani expands as the principal gopis in Vrindavan, the other gopis in Vrindavan, the Shakti Tattva gopis, and then she expands as the wives of Krishna in Dwarka, and then the Lakshmis in the spiritual world, and all the way down expansion to even Durga, which is very similar to the expansion of Krishna. Krishna expands the Chaturvyuha expansions, Vasudeva Sankarshan Pradyumna Anani Ruda, and the Purusha avatars, and eventually Krishna manifests himself as Lord Shiva in this material world. And Lord Shiva sometimes is described as Aikshata, is the glance of the Mahavishnu. So anyway, Jiva Goswami, so much here. This verse elaborates on the previous verse. He, Bhagavan, stayed completely in their houses with his body, mind, and words, and enjoyed with his Swarup Shakti, which is what I said before, and its various expansions as his wives. This is important here. Thus his actions did no way diminish his status as Atmarama, satisfied in himself, not requiring material enjoyment. That means he doesn't need anyone else. He can satisfy himself, and he's not dependent. Purna Kama, complete and fulfilling all of his desires by himself. That's an interesting word we should remember. Purna Kama. He's Atma, Rama, and Purna Kama. Remember, everybody should remember that. Atma Rama means he's self-satisfied, doesn't need anything else. Purna Kama, he's complete and in his own desires, by himself, without anyone else. If that's so, this is a rhetorical question, What is the question of which requires more than one person? Interesting. He was completely filled with special prema, kama. Here, kama is defined as special prema for his devotees, and this prema was his own nija, not material. For pastimes, he manifested special, astonishing prema for these women, who were composed of special prema. These women were composed of special prema, operating as the various forms of his Ladini Shakti arising from his Swarup. I think we need to go over this. Otherwise, everyone will get bewildered. So, in one sense, Krishna and his Shakti are the same. And for pastime's sake, it's described for pastime's sake, they become two. The Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about this. So in one sense, nothing is different from Krishna, which we mentioned before. So this prema, the quality of prema is the quality, for these, given to these women. For his pastimes, he manifests his special, astonishing prema for these women. And these women were actually composed of this special prema. In other words, Krishna's Swarup Shakti, his manifestation of his Shaktis that he's enjoying with, are composed of special prema. Think about that for a second. Special prema means highest, is what the word special. Operating as the various forms of his Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti means pleasure potency. So in one sense, Krishna is different and non-different from his Ladini Shakti. It says, as we described before, Radha and Krishna are one, but for the sake of pastimes, they became two. Now, when we say they became, it doesn't mean a time frame they became. We're thinking logically right now. This is beyond time, isn't it? For pastimes, they became two. So you would think in your mundane mind, okay, like 1,000 years ago, 10 million years ago, 200 million years ago, they were just one. But then, after a few moments, they decided, Krishna decided, I got to become two. It doesn't work like that. It's inconceivable again. I can't say that I understand everything because it's inconceivable. So the special prema, operating as the various forms of Ladini Shakti, that it's a manifestation of these wives of Krishna, the gopis, and they arising from his Swarupa, his own form, Swarupa, his own self, his own form, non-different from him, who by appearing separately represent the Shakti's chief aspects in order to enact pastime. So the aspects or qualities of the Shaktis were manifest in order for Krishna's pastimes, in order for Krishna to enjoy interacting with his Swarup Shakti, which in one sense is described like a reflection of himself. Anyway, it's very, let me finish this, and who are non-different and different from him, which is what I said before, being his Shaktis. So there's a heck of a lot more of the commentaries to read on this particular verse. I mean, it's maybe the person giving class tomorrow can continue reading some of the commentaries. Who's giving class? So, yeah, I mean, because you really have to stop at each sentence and just ponder each sentence. Okay.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Marhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Nandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham
Namak Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Putale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Namanichi Namande Namaste, hey, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Vacha, Nankini Visesha, Shunyavati, Matsyachati Satarite, Namaste, Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shitweta Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Krita Radha Shiva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanitanda Krita Radha Shiva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokinana, Radha Gokinana, Dragate. Jaya Radha Gokinana, Gokinana, Rate. Jaya Radha, hey. Hey. Jaya Sri Radha, hey, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Paramahamsa, Teta, Divine Grace, Jagannatha Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON Founder John, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna